All right, today we're going to tackle a really crucial part of the solid principles in software design, the Interface Segregation Principle, or ISP for short. And trust me, if you get this one right, it's going to fundamentally change how you build cleaner, more flexible, and truly maintainable code.
So what's the core idea here? Well, imagine you're playing a simple little game where all you need to do is move left and right. But instead of a simple controller, someone hands you this massive flight simulator joystick with 20 buttons, a bunch of dials, you know the kind. It's just way too much, right? Totally overwhelming and pretty much useless for what you actually need. That exact feeling of unnecessary complexity is what the interface segregation principle helps us get rid of in our code.
And that's the big question, isn't it? How does that crazy controller analogy translate back into the world of software design? Well, it points to a super common problem where we build things to be so generic, so all-encompassing, that they actually become a burden to everything that has to use them. Okay, so let's get into it. First up, we need to identify the main symptom of this problem. In the software world, it has a name. The fat interface. Yeah, you can think of it as a code smell, that little hint that something in the design might be a bit off. So what is a fat interface? Well, it's this single, bloated, one-size-fits-all interface that's just been crammed with tons of methods, trying to cover every single possible use case. Now, the intention behind it might be good, trying to create a general-purpose tool, but the result? The result is that any class that implements this interface is forced to carry around a whole lot of baggage it doesn't even need. And that just creates a web of unnecessary dependencies and makes the whole system really rigid. So if that fat interface is our symptom, what's the diagnosis? It's a textbook violation of the interface segregation principle. But here's the cool part. The principle isn't just the diagnosis, it's also the cure. It's the exact tool we need to fix that bloat and get our design lean and clean again. And the principle itself? It's beautifully simple. It states, no class should be forced to depend on methods it does not use. It's really that clear. In other words, if a class doesn't need a certain behavior, it shouldn't have to know about it, and it definitely shouldn't be forced to implement it. We want our clients to only have to deal with the methods that are actually relevant to them. Period. All right, theory is one thing, but let's be real. Seeing it in action is where it really clicks. So let's dive into a classic code example with different kinds of printers to see just how powerful this principle really is. Okay, check this out. This is the before picture. We've got a classic fat interface here called iMultifunction Printer. It's got methods for printing, scanning, and faxing, the whole shebang. Now, what happens when we want to create a simple printer class? It can print, sure, but it can't scan or fax. But because it has to implement that fat interface, it's forced to have all three methods. This means we're stuck leaving the scan and fax methods empty, or even worse, making them throw an error. That's a huge red flag and a textbook violation of the principle. And now, the after. This is where the magic happens. By applying ISP, we break that fat interface into smaller, more focused pieces. We create a separate iPrinter interface and another one for iScanner. Now, our simple printer only needs to implement iPrinter. That's it. It's a perfect illustration of the solution. No more useless baggage, no more empty methods, and no more surprise exceptions. The code is clean, it's clear, and it's honest about what it can actually do. Okay, so we've put in the work, we've separated our interfaces, so what? What's the real payoff here? Why does this matter in the long run? Well, you can think of this as the wellness plan for your entire codebase. It's all about building a system that's healthy, adaptable, and just plain easier to work with over time. And believe me, the benefits are super practical. First up, you get loose coupling. That means your classes aren't all tangled up with methods they don't even care about. This leads to minimal change impact. So if you decide to change something about faxing, your simple printer class doesn't even need to know, let alone be recompiled. It also leads to simplified testing, because it's so much easier to mock a small, focused interface. And finally, it helps you avoid violating another solid principle, the Liskov substitution principle, because your classes no longer have to pretend to do things they actually can't. Now, here's a really common point of confusion, and definitely something you might get asked in an interview. What's the difference between ISP and the single responsibility principle, or SRP? They both sound like they're about separation, but they focus on different things. So let's break it down. SRP is all about classes. It asks, what is the one single job of this class? ISP, on the other hand, is all about the interfaces. It asks, how big should this interface be? And what does the client of this interface actually need? Okay,
This is all great in theory, but how do you actually spot these problems in your own projects? I'm going to give you a super simple, actionable checklist you can use to hunt down ISP violations in pretty much any code base. It really just boils down to two simple questions you got to ask yourself. When you're looking at a class that's implementing an interface, ask, first, does it leave some of the interface's methods empty? And second, does it throw an operation not supported kind of exception in any of them? If you answer yes to either of those, ding, 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 you have almost certainly found an ISP violation. It's a dead giveaway that the interface is just too fat for that class. All right, we've gone through the problem, the diagnosis, the cure, and all the benefits. So let's boil this all down to the one single critical question that I want you to walk away with. If you remember absolutely nothing else from this, remember this one question. Whenever you're designing or reviewing code, just ask yourself, does this class actually use all the methods of the interface it's implementing? If the answer isn't a confident, immediate yes, then it's time to segregate that interface. Seriously, keeping your interfaces small and focused is one of the most effective ways to build software that is robust, maintainable, and honestly, a real joy to work on.